in a distant corner of the galaxy, aboard a small cargo ship named the Wanderer. Rachel Monroe floated through the quiet hum of engines. She was a pilot by trade, hauling supplies between colonies scattered across the outer rim of human space. It wasn't glamorous work, but it paid the bills and kept her far from the politics that had consumed Earth's leaders for decades. Humanity had always been at the center of galactic affairs, negotiating treaties, fighting wars, and shaping alliances, but lately, whispers of change had begun to ripple through the stars. Rachel overheard fragments of these rumors while docked at a bustling trade station near the edge of human territory. Merchants shouted prices, aliens haggled in guttural tones, and holographic advertisements flickered on every surface. Amid the chaos, she caught snippets of conversations about Earth's shocking announcement. Humanity was leaving the Galactic Council. The decision had sent shockwaves throughout the universe, leaving everyone scrambling to understand what it meant for the fragile balance of power. At first, Rachel didn't pay much attention. Politics had never interested her. She preferred the simplicity of flying routes and meeting deadlines. But as she refueled the Wanderer, a group of traders nearby spoke louder than usual. One man, his face lined with worry, said, "Without humanity, who's going to keep the Krillians in check? They've been itching for a fight for years." Another replied grimly, "It's not just them. Every species out there is going to try to fill the void. This is going to get ugly." Rachel frowned as she listened. The Krillians were an insectoid race known for their aggression and expansionist tendencies. For centuries, humanity had acted as a buffer between them and weaker species like the Luminae, who relied on diplomacy rather than force. If Earth truly stepped back, the delicate peace might collapse entirely. Later that evening, Rachel sat alone in the cockpit of the Wanderer, staring at the swirling nebula outside her viewport. Her thoughts drifted to President Daniel Harper, the man behind the controversial decision. He had argued that humanity needed to focus on its own problems instead of meddling in interstellar conflicts. Many agreed with him, tired of spending resources on foreign battles when Earth still faced challenges like climate recovery and economic inequality. Others, however, feared the consequences of abandoning their role as peacemakers. As Rachel prepared to depart the station, a news broadcast crackled over the comms system. A reporter's voice filled the cabin. "In a historic move, Earth has officially severed all formal ties with the Galactic Council. Diplomats have returned home, and military forces are being recalled from joint operations. Leaders insist this marks a new era of independence for humanity, but critics warn of potential instability across the galaxy." Rachel sighed, switching off the broadcast. She didn't fully understand the implications of Earth's decision, but something about it felt wrong. The galaxy wasn't just a collection of planets and species, it was a web of connections, held together by trust and cooperation. Without humanity playing its part, cracks were bound to form. Her unease deepened when she received a transmission from another pilot, warning of increased Krillian activity along her route. Normally, patrols from Earth's fleet would deter such threats, but now those ships were gone. Rachel tightened her grip on the controls, realizing she'd have to rely on her wits more than ever. As the Wanderer slipped into hyperspace, she couldn't shake the feeling that the calm she'd always taken for granted was about to shatter, and she might be caught in the middle of it. Back on Earth, RETIRED. Admiral Nathan Brooks sat in his modest home overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The waves crashed rhythmically against the shore, a sound that usually brought him peace. But today, the news of humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council weighed heavily on his mind. He had spent decades serving in the fleet, navigating the complexities of interstellar diplomacy and warfare. Now, at the age of 62, he thought he'd left those battles behind. Yet, the decision to step away from galactic politics felt like a mistake, one that could unravel everything they had worked so hard to build. His old friend, Laura Hayes, arrived, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Laura was a historian who specialized in alien cultures, and her sharp insights often challenged Nathan's military perspective. She carried a small tablet under her arm, its screen glowing faintly with data she had been analyzing. "You've seen the reports," she said without preamble, taking a seat across from him. "This isn't going to end well." Nathan nodded, leaning back in his chair. "I know, but what can we do?" Harper's made his choice, and most people seem to support it. They're tired of playing referee for the galaxy. Laura sighed, tapping the tablet to life. "That's the problem. Humanity has always been a stabilizing force, whether we liked it or not. Without us, the Krillians will push harder into neutral territories. The Luminae won't stand a chance if things escalate." The Krillians were a constant source of tension. Their hive-like society thrived on conquest, and their leader, Warlord Zekthar, had never hidden his disdain for weaker species. For years, humanity's presence had kept them in check, but now that restraint was gone. Laura scrolled through images of Krillian ships massing near contested regions. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a cluster of vessels. "They're already testing the waters. If no one steps in, they'll take whatever they want." Nathan studied the images, his jaw tightening. He had faced the Krillians before, during a brutal conflict known as the Rim Wars. Their tactics were brutal and efficient, leaving little room for negotiation. "If they start expanding, others will follow," he muttered. "It'll be a freedro." Laura set the tablet aside, her expression grave. "And you know what happens then? Alliances break down, resources become scarce, and wars spread. We've seen this pattern before in our own history and in theirs. Power vacuums don't fix themselves." Nathan rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on him again. He had retired to escape this kind of thinking, but Laura's words stirred something deep inside. "Even if we wanted to intervene, we can't," he said finally. "Earth's pulled out. Our fleets are grounded. What would you have me do?" Laura hesitated, then leaned forward. "Maybe nothing right now. But if things get worsened, they will, you might regret staying silent. You still have connections, Nathan. People listen to you. If anyone can rally support, it's you." Her words lingered in the air as the evening grew darker. Nathan stared out at the ocean, lost in thought. He knew Laura was right. Ignoring the growing chaos wasn't an option, but stepping back into the fray meant risking everything: his peace, his safety, and perhaps even his reputation. Still, the image of Krillian ships advancing unchecked haunted him. Later that night, unable to sleep, Nathan pulled up archived footage of past council meetings. He watched clips of diplomats arguing, soldiers strategizing, and leaders shaking hands after tense negotiations. Humanity had played a vital role in holding the galaxy together, and now that role was vacant. Somewhere out there, someone would rise to fill the void, but not everyone had good intentions. As dawn broke over the horizon, Nathan came to a quiet realization. Earth might have stepped back, but that didn't mean humanity had to stay silent forever. If the galaxy descended into chaos, someone would need to light the way forward. And maybe, just maybe, he still had a part to play in shaping the future. Rachel Monroe's journey aboard the Wanderer took a dangerous turn as she approached the edge of Krillian-controlled space. The route she had planned was supposed to be safe, avoiding any major conflicts or patrols, but the warnings from other pilots proved true Krillian activity was increasing, and they weren't shy about asserting dominance. As her ship drifted near a cluster of asteroids, alarms blared suddenly in the cockpit. 3 sleek fighters emerged from behind the rocks, their insectoid designs glinting menacingly in the starlight. Rachel's heart raced as the lead fighter locked onto her ship with targeting beams. She knew running wasn't an option. The Wanderer was slow and poorly armed compared to the agile Krillian vessels. Instead, she relied on quick thinking. With practiced precision, she activated the ship's emergency thrusters, spinning it wildly to throw off their aim. The first volley of plasma bolts missed, narrowly grazing the hull. Rachel then fired a decoy drone, a small device designed to mimic her ship's signature. The Krillians hesitated, unsure which target to pursue, seizing the moment Rachel maneuvered the Wanderer into the shadow of a nearby asteroid. The rocky terrain provided temporary cover, but she knew it wouldn't last long. Her hands trembled as she patched into the ship's comm system, hoping to send a distress signal. Before she could finish, however, one of the fighters closed in, its weapons charging for another attack. Desperation fueled her next move. Using every ounce of skill she possessed, Rachel flipped the ship around and fired a burst from her rear-mounted cannon. The shot struck the fighter's wing, disabling one of its engines. Sparks erupted from the damaged vessel as it spiraled out of control, crashing into the asteroid field below. The remaining two fighters regrouped, their movements more cautious. Now, Rachel didn't waste time celebrating her small victory. She spotted a narrow gap between two large asteroids and pushed the engines to their limit, slipping through just as the Krillians resumed firing. Plasma bolts lit up the darkness around her, but she managed to break free, disappearing into open space, though shaken. She breathed a sigh of relief when the enemy ships finally gave up the chase. Once she was certain she was safe, Rachel ran a diagnostic check on her ship. The damage wasn't severe, but repairs would be necessary before she could continue her journey. As she worked, she noticed something unusual. A data packet had been uploaded to her system during the skirmish. It must have come from the disabled Krillian fighter, likely part of its automated defense protocols. Curious, Rachel accessed the file. What she found sent chills down her spine. The data contained encrypted messages detailing plans for an invasion of neutral systems. Coordinates, troop movements, and supply routes were all laid out in cold, calculated detail. The Krillians weren't just testing boundaries, they were preparing for war, and if no one stopped them, countless innocent lives would be lost. Rachel knew she couldn't keep this information to herself. She transmitted the data to anyone who might listen, including Earth's communication hubs. Though humanity had withdrawn from galactic affairs, someone there had to care about what was happening beyond their borders. As the transmission went out, she hoped it would reach the right people, back on Earth. Nathan Brooks received fragments of Rachel's message through unofficial channels. His old contacts in intelligence still monitored interstellar communications. Even after the government's official withdrawal, the incomplete data hinted at a looming catastrophe, enough to make Nathan sit up straight. He forwarded the information to Laura Hayes, who immediately began analyzing it. "This is bad," Laura said, after hours of decoding. "If these plans are real, the Krillians aren't just expanding their planning to wipe out entire systems. Neutral species won't stand a chance." Nathan clenched his fists, frustration boiling inside him. Humanity had stepped back, leaving others to fend for themselves. But now, faced with undeniable evidence of impending disaster, he realized staying silent wasn't an option. Someone had to act and soon. The journey to Zithris 7 was long and tense, with the Nova horizon slicing through the vast emptiness of space. Days turned into weeks, and the prisoners fell into a routine of sorts. They spent their time discussing strategies, sharing skills, and occasionally arguing over minor details. Despite the uneasy alliance they had formed, old habits died hard. Carla still snapped at Victor whenever he corrected her, and Alex often clashed with Eric over leadership roles. Yet, beneath the surface, a fragile sense of trust began to grow. Captain Ryan Mitchell checked in on them regularly, his presence both reassuring and unsettling. He didn't speak much, but his sharp eyes missed nothing. During one visit, he brought news that made their stomachs churn. "We're approaching the outer edge of the Council's territory," he said, his voice calm but serious. Expect increased security measures once we arrive. Stay alert. His words lingered in the cramped compartment after he left. The group exchanged uneasy glances. None of them knew what to expect, but the thought of alien guards or weapons trained on them wasn't comforting. As the ship drew closer to its destination, strange readings appeared on the sensors. Lieutenant Harper, the ship's science officer, reported unusual energy fluctuations nearby. Ryan frowned at the data scrolling across her screen. It could be natural phenomena, she suggested hesitantly, though her tone betrayed her uncertainty. Or, it could be a trap, Ryan muttered under his breath. He ordered the crew to run additional scans, while keeping the prisoners informed partially, at least. When he relayed the information to the group, Alex immediately voiced his suspicions. You think they're setting us up? Sending us straight into some kind of ambush? I don't know, Ryan admitted, but we'll be ready for anything. The next morning, the ship shuddered slightly as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Through the viewport, the prisoners caught their first glimpse of Zitherus 7. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, a sprawling landscape of crystalline structures that shimmered in hues of blue and silver. Towering spires reached toward the sky, surrounded by floating platforms connected by beams of light. The sight was breathtaking, but it did little to ease their nerves. When the Nova Horizon landed, the prisoners were escorted off the ship under heavy guard. The air outside was cool and carried a faint metallic temps. Before them stood rows of towering insectoid creatures, the Varaxians. Their armored bodies gleamed in the sunlight, and their multifaceted eyes scanned the newcomers with cold precision. Behind the Varaxians loomed a massive assembly hall, where other alien species gathered. Watching silently, one of the Varaxians stepped forward, its mandibles clicking sharply, as it addressed Captain Ryan, in a language none of the humans understood. Sophie quickly translated the message. They demand the tribute be presented immediately. Ryan nodded stiffly and gestured for the prisoners to step forward. As they moved into view, the crowd of aliens erupted into murmurs. Some whispered among themselves, pointing at the ragtag group of criminals. Others stared with open disdain. Alex clenched his fists, resisting the urge to lash out. They're treating us like animals, he growled softly. Eric placed a hand on his shoulder. Stay calm, we're being watched. The group was led into the assembly hall, where the Galactic Council awaited. The council members sat atop elevated platforms, their forms varying wildly from sleek aquatic beings to amorphous shapes of shifting light. At the center was a towering figure, cloaked in golden robes, its face obscured by a shimmering veil. This was Chancellor Zinther, the leader of the council. A translator device buzzed to life, relaying Zinther's booming voice. You claim these specimens represent humanity's finest? It asked, skepticism dripping from every word. Ryan hesitated, unsure how to respond. The question hung in the air, unanswered, as the council members exchanged glances. The tension in the room grew palpable, and the prisoners exchanged worried looks. Whatever happened next would determine not only their fate, but possibly Earth's as well. The assembly hall fell silent as Chancellor Zinther's question echoed through the vast chamber. The golden-robed figure leaned forward slightly, its shimmering veil catching the light from the crystalline walls. Ryan Mitchell stood frozen, unsure how to respond. Admitting that Earth had sent criminals instead of its finest would only confirm the Council's low opinion of humanity. But lying outright risked making things worse. Before Ryan could speak, Alex stepped forward, his voice steady, despite the knot of fear in his stomach. We're here because Earth sent us, he said, meeting the Chancellor's gaze, or at least, where he thought the gaze might be. If you want proof of what humans can do, then look at us. We may not be perfect, but we've survived everything life threw at us. That's worth something. Murmurs rippled through the crowd of alien spectators. Some sounded amused, while others seemed intrigued. Eric shot Alex a warning glance, silently urging him to step back. Alex ignored it, his jaw set firmly. He wasn't about to let these aliens dismiss them without a fight. Chancellor Zinther tilted its head, studying the group with unnerving intensity. Survival alone is not enough, it declared, its voice resonating like thunder. You claim to represent your species, yet your actions have already proven otherwise. Humanity's history is one of destruction and selfishness. Why should we believe you capable of change? Mia raised her hand hesitantly, drawing the council's attention. When given permission to speak, she took a deep breath. History isn't just about mistakes. It's also about learning from them. Humans have fought wars, yes, but we've also built cities, cured diseases, and explored the stars. You demanded tribute, and we came. Doesn't that show we're willing to try? The room buzzed with quiet debate among the council members. Their glowing forms shifted restlessly, and their voices overlapped in languages too complex for the translator device to fully capture. Finally, one of the aquatic beings spoke up, its watery tones flowing smoothly. Perhaps there is merit in observing them further. Let us see if they can adapt to challenges beyond their understanding. Zinther nodded slowly, though its expression, if it even had one, remained unreadable. Very well, it announced. These specimens will undergo evaluation. If they prove useful, they may yet earn their place. However, the Chancellor paused, its tone hardening. Failure will result in immediate termination. The prisoners exchanged uneasy glances. Termination. The word sent chills down their spines. None of them had expected mercy, but hearing their fate so bluntly laid out made it painfully real. The Vraxians escorted the group to a separate chamber, leaving Ryan and the crew of the Nova Horizon behind. As the heavy doors slid shut, Alex muttered under his breath, "So much for diplomacy." Inside the chamber, the evaluations began almost immediately. Each prisoner was subjected to a series of tests designed to measure their intelligence, problem-solving skills, and physical endurance. For Victor, this meant repairing a malfunctioning piece of alien machinery using tools he'd never seen before. Sophie was tasked with deciphering an unfamiliar language, her sharp mind racing to find patterns in the strange symbols. Meanwhile, Mia faced a simulated hacking challenge, her fingers flying across a holographic interface. Eric's test was different. He found himself in a combat simulation, pitted against virtual opponents that moved with terrifying speed. Though outnumbered, he relied on instinct and training, taking down each enemy with brutal efficiency. By the time the simulation ended, sweat dripped from his brow, but he wore a grim smile. Still got it, he muttered to himself. Despite their efforts, the prisoners couldn't shake the feeling that the council wasn't truly interested in evaluating their worth. Every task felt more like exploitation than exploration, as if the council was searching for ways to use them, rather than understand them. Carla voiced this suspicion during a brief break between tests. They're not testing us there, sizing us up, figuring out what we're good for. And once they know? Alex asked darkly. What happens then? No one answered. They didn't need to. The truth was clear. Whatever the council had planned, it wouldn't involve freedom.